to get right down to it, you know, the movie setting for the Accursed is something that we've, you know, it's somewhat of a familiar horror setting, but it feels a lot different. It really sets the movie apart. How important is that for you going into this? And I guess it's be really a question for everybody, whatever thoughts you guys had on how do you strive to make something stand out in the horror realm where a lot of things kind of mash together?
Well, that's a good question. For me, that's one of the questions I always have when I start a project is how do I make this stand out? Because there's so much content, there's so much things coming a mile a minute. And I feel at the end of the day, it's all about the truth, right? If you just get to the heart of it and the truth and the human connection and the human condition, it's going to stand out because that's what people relate to, why we go to movies, right? And so for me, yes, it's a horror movie. It has all that. But if you can just tap into that. And when I talk to this wonderful talent, the first thing I would ask them is what scares you? Why do you like horror movies? What keeps you up at night? What you know, and they all had different, answers. And my feeling is that, if you can tap into that and you tap into the psyche, you can do something special that's lasting. And that's what we try to do with this movie, all of us. Because at the end of the day, it is about generational trauma and the sins of the mothers revisited on the daughters. And I think a lot of people can relate to something like that. So that's my long-winded answer.
No, that's perfect. And you hit right on what I was thinking about, the generational trauma and, the relationship between mothers and daughters and how you'd expect it to be. And then, how it is in this case. So, and when this thing really gets going, the last 20 minutes is crazy intense and it really hits hard with a lot of stuff that kind of really makes you wince, number one. But the one scene that stuck out, I'm going to try not to spoil too much of anything, was, Sarah, there's a scene where you're tied down and I had no other way to put it. The demon is just stuff all over your face. I got to ask, what is a scene like that for you as the actor? And just walk me through that scene when you're having all this crap thrown all over you and just you have to act through it.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot. I remember, just having blood dried all over. So every time I moved, it was like, it's kind of painful because it's kind
Stuck
of
to the floor.
Yeah. And then it's just so much at once. I mean, it's so creepy and you're just kind of going crazy, going at it, going for it. You have to. But it was so much fun. I love horror and to see it in person. I've said it was so fun to actually have something to look at, to be afraid of. It was less work for me. I could really just take it in, and it's all a blur now.
Well, that actually goes into some of the other questions I had. Is number one, Kevin, this might be for you, right? I mean, you guys were all on set. You could probably tell me as well. One of the key gags in the movie is the way the demon presents is the hand coming out of the mouth. Was that all practical, or is that? See, I honestly stared at it and I still couldn't tell. So I guess that's a good thing. But just out of curiosity.
That's an awesome compliment, honestly, and it was a mix. But for the demon coming out of Meg, that was VFX. But we took a prop hand, and we also had a stunt hand, and we kind of mapped that out. Entropic did the VFX for us; they did a great job. But the demon was practical, but then we augmented with VFX. So I like to go, I mean, it was 70-30, but of course the hand coming out of the demon's mouth and stuff, that's all VFX.
Yeah, at some point it's got to turn, I guess, right? Yeah. And Mena, you were a key point of terror in this, which really kind of blew me away. Because the films that I've seen you most in, you certainly have a darker side in some movies, but I've always seen you as a nicer person in these films, and you have this presence that's just kind of terrifying. So there's a couple of scenes where you're fighting with somebody.
Waiting for the right moment. No, I'm kidding.
There you go. Well, what's that like for you on set when you're hanging out with all the actors, all the filmmakers, and then you have to cut into something like that? Are you kind of isolating yourself throughout the day for that, or can you just turn it off and on like that?
Um, it's interesting. I mean, I guess to be honest, because this was such a quick shoot, we didn't really get to meet each other here. You know, we shot in Savannah, so showing up, I got to meet everybody there. But how the day is gone, it makes me think about how I think there was a sense of like I didn't want to become too close with my Sarahs. I love the name Sarah, the Sarahs. Because especially when they first meet me, I wanted them to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted them to be like completely thrown off. So I try
Yeah.
to, like, and then also part of that for me is I try to, I don't know, I like to just come in and like do my thing. I don't want to, you know.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, I'm here for my job. This is like what, you know, I try to really uphold our director and like, I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to come in that sense and do that. But I don't, it was a bit unnerving. I think that part of me felt like, yeah, let's do this. And then, you know, on the day I'd be like, I don't know, Sarah. I'm like really nervous. Like, I'm too nervous. Like, how can we be careful? You know, like that kind of came in. So.
Well, it definitely worked on screen because your entire performance that culminated in what I have to say is one of the and I've seen a lot of horror movies. One of the more gross scenes I've seen, and one of the ones that made me wince more, in that you actually feed somebody else's face. So
yeah, no,
that
I
interesting.
had these conversations with Kevin. I was just like, you know, reading this thinking like, like you're really gonna go there, okay?
Yeah. I was like, she's not going to. She is doing that.
But there was something like really exciting and like interesting about that at the same time. So
right.
I felt like, you know, let's do this, and you know,
Memorable
have such an incredible cast, incredible director. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you feel that it's safe and it's possible.
Right. So we were talking about the on-set stuff, and you know, obviously a horror movie looks terrifying on screen, but on set you have the lights and people everywhere. But there's one part that I know must have been scary, and that's you guys had blanking on his last name, Troy, as your demon, and he's a known contortionist, Troy James, contortionism, whatever that is. That's what he does. And I have to imagine, specifically, Alexis, there was a scene that you had with him where he's approaching you in the weird walk. Is that as terrifying in person as I would think it would? And what's that like to see coming at you?
It was fucking weird. Yeah. And I knew what a sweet angel he is deep down, but wow, when he was in the full demon suit and he started walking towards me backwards like that, like a real life demon, I kind of forgot who he was deep down. It was weird. Probably not as weird as him putting his gooey demon finger in my mouth. So.
Yeah, that really set the point on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then really the last question I have for you guys, and I'll let you close up your day, is you know, it's pretty clear. I try to find questions that you guys haven't been asked 400 times today. So this probably is one that you've gotten at least 399. But, you know, Sarah, you had a pretty epic final girl scream in this movie. What would you say goes into that? And what are you thinking of when you do that scream? Are you just like, I'm an actor, I'm screaming? Or is there something to get you there?
I don't. Raw talent. Raw talent.
That's how it looked. That's how it looked on screen, as raw talent. But I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm even, honestly, I don't think I'm picturing anything specific. I think it's more of a physical thing that I just let loose, and then I just feel it, and I feel terror.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know why, but it just comes with the physicality of screaming like that and totally going for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so it's almost like throwing a punch or being in a fight on screen, I guess. You just letting it fly. So,
yeah.
But I really appreciate the time, guys. The Accursed I've had a blast with it. It was terrifying and a lot of fun too. So best of luck, and thank you for the time.
Thank you for having us,
John.